Well, it's been a month since the defamation lawsuit between Fox News and Dominion reached a conclusion with a substantial settlement of nearly $800 million. But as we know, Fox News is far from being out of legal turmoil.
Among the ongoing legal battles is a defamation lawsuit brought by Smartmatic. That's another election technology company, and they are seeking a staggering $2.7 billion in damages, alleging that Fox News aired more than 100 false statements about its software during the 2020 election.
Not only are former New York Mayor Rudy Giuliani and attorney Sidney Powell implicated in the lawsuit, but Fox News anchors Janine Pirro, Maria Bartiromo, and Lou Dobbs are also named as defendants.
Joining Morning Rush right now, Leslie Tenzer, professor at Elisabeth Haub School of Law at Pace University. She's also host of Law to Fact, a podcast for students studying the law. Thank you so much for being with us this morning. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
All right, so Fox, they're just having a great spring. They have this settlement. They fired their star, Tucker. We don't know where that drama is going. He'll be back on Twitter, but there's still contractual links between the two. Could get messy. We don't know. We'll see. But I would imagine legally, Smartmatic looked at Dominion and said, ooh, they did well. What can we do to have a nice payout like they're enjoying right now? What do you think the moral of the story would be for Smartmatic looking at how Dominion conducted its case?
And the moral of the story is have a great lawyer do a great deposition of Rupert Murdoch and Tucker Carlson. I mean, basically what happened in the Dominion case was that there was a smoking gun. And so they had these depositions that really would have kind of destroyed Fox News had they come to light and had they put those, defendants on the stand. And I think that's really what led Fox to settle with Dominion in the 11th hour.
And when you talk about the implications if Fox News decides not to settle with Smartmatic, we've heard Lachlan Murdoch say that this will go to trial. So we talk a little bit about what that path looks like.
You keep in mind that the Dominion case settled in literally the 11th hour. So if this goes to trial, and I suspect that it will if the Smartmatic doesn't have kind of the detrimental information against it, then it's important to prove the elements of defamation. The problem is that when you have to prove defamation against a public figure, you have to show that the defendant, in this case Fox News, acted with actual malice, which is really an intent to defame or reckless disregard. And what Fox News has on its side in this case is this idea that it was just doing the reporting. It wasn't defaming. In fact, it was repeating allegations by people who don't work for their corporation. And so that is why Fox News does have a chance at winning the case.
And actual malice is a very high bar, as it should be, right? And there's some folks in this country who want to kind of strip those things away to make it easier to sue journalists. And, that's a whole freedom of the press debate and a whole other topic, but it's interesting. But to me, besides the big check, the thing that was interesting about Dominion was that they kind of helped rip the curtain and gave us all a peek into how Fox News really works, the text messages and, the meetings and all of that. And to me, if you have the proof in writing and in text that we know these election fraud claims are not true, and some of our biggest folks really don't like Trump, but will get on that anchor desk and say they do, meaning you're proving willful lies, willful deception. And does that not speak to malice? Why would you willfully lie if not to achieve some end? Can you connect those two at all?
It absolutely does, and that's why Dominion settled. But in order for Smartmatic to succeed or to get a settlement, they have to have that information against Fox in their case. So the information that they had in the Dominion case was specific to that case, Fox versus Dominion versus Fox. So Smartmatic needs to get a hold of that information. In other words, a deposition for one lawsuit isn't necessarily a deposition for another lawsuit. The other thing is when they settled, if you read the statement, Fox was very crafty. I actually showed it to my law students, and we kind of took it apart in that they didn't admit any kind of liability in a way that would set them up for failure in another lawsuit.
Very interesting, very interesting. And this really could have big implications, as you mentioned, about being able to sue journalists, sue news organizations. So we will definitely have to sit tight and see if that plays out through the long legal process or if it hits the settlement in the 11th hour. Leslie Tenzer, professor at Elisabeth Haub School of Law at Pace University, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.